What's up, guys? I hope everybody had a great weekend and a great Mother's Day. And for all the mothers out there and all the mother figures, thank you for all that you do in case, your kids and everybody else doesn't say it enough. I think mothers are superhumans, not because I'm also a mother, but mothers do a lot, right? So I just want to take a moment to really recognize them. And I hope everybody got a chance to do at least something for themselves, being selfish at least one time a year on Mother's Day and maybe your birthday and maybe any other holiday you get a chance to be. You have to make sure you take care of yourself. And again, a reminder, since this is a success well-being podcast, we want to always do our self-care and block out time for ourselves. Although I didn't really get a chance to do that this Mother's Day for myself, so I'm kind of being a hypocrite, but I am going to schedule to do that next week. But for this Mother's Day, actually, we had a really cool experience. I kind of felt very special and like a celebrity. My husband had reserved this dining experience. I don't know what it's called, but it was at the SLS Hotel. I have to remember the name, but they do like an animation 3D show on the table. Like it's a cartoon thing and you have dinner. So it's this whole experience. It was super cool, but the best part of it was that somehow there were like blocks in their schedule. They were gonna like block that day not to do that event, but we ended up having the reservations and we were the only ones. So it felt like he literally blocked out or rented out the whole fancy restaurant just for me. So it was a really cool experience. I was like, I could get used to this. But yeah, that was my first time with that experience. I was like, oh my God, all the chefs, all these staff, like they are so awesome. Like they didn't cancel our reservations and we're just the only ones enjoying this whole amazing thing. But felt very special and cool. So that was my Mother's Day. For this episode, we get to meet Mason, who is actually a professional radio host. I was actually a little nervous interviewing her because, she does this for a living and she's been doing it for a really long time. And here I am just having fun with my podcast. But anyways, we got a compliment on her setup. So that was kind of cool. She recently moved to LA because she got a really cool job opportunity to be a host on one of Nick Cannon's shows. And that brought her from Dallas all the way to LA. She literally packed everything up and came here for a job. And honestly, that alone made me admire her because I can see myself leaving my life and going somewhere for a job. So for those of you that are brave to do that, honestly, all my kudos to you. But Mason is so amazing. Not only she made a big move to come to LA for this huge opportunity, she also has built up a following, over 1 million followers on TikTok, and she shares with us how that is actually one of the reasons why she got this new opportunity. So it's gonna be very, very fun to talk to her. She has a really funny personality, and we also cover a little bit about some trolls and how she deals with that on the online platform, because as you get more and more popular, more and more people kind of have eyes on you, and not everybody's super nice out there. So she gets to give us her advice on that, and we also get to talk a little bit about her story and her past and what brought her to today. Well, let's meet Mason. Hi, I'm Yegi. I'm an entrepreneur and success coach who wants it all: family, luxury, career, and the freedom to do whatever I want whenever I want, and I'll do whatever it takes to get there. I created the Yegi Project to document my journey and inspire others to do the same. My mission is to change the world by influencing and leading others to do what they love and live fulfilled lives. Hello. Welcome back to the Yegi Project. Today we have a live guest, which I'm always excited about over virtual because, we can feel each other's amazing energies.
True. Facial expressions, body language. Yes. I get it.
Let me introduce our guest today. Her name is Mason, and she is a professional radio host.
I am a professional. So
I am a little nervous interviewing her because I am not a professional, but I'm so excited to hear her story, hear her journey, and tell us what brought her to LA, because she's not originally from LA.
I am not. I got a job, I guess, 2 months ago.
Wait. Before we jump into it, I like to do an icebreaker.
Okay, let's do an icebreaker.
Let's do a fun one. So, what is a party trick that you have? Or is there one?
I guess just voices. I can do different voices. I don't really have any other
do one
talent,
for
I don't
us
think.
if you don't mind.
Okay, so I can do like a really high one. Like I'm a gymnast and I'm really bendy.
I used to do prank calls using that voice. I do, hello, darling, a transatlantic accent. So you talk like this and you feel very fancy.
Wow,
It's
very
like true
fancy.
value Julie Andrews. Sort
I
of.
love it.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
So I do a bunch of
Wow,
others,
what
but those are,
hidden
yeah.
Did you take classes?
No, I'm an only child, so I spend a lot of time by myself.
Entertain yourselves with different characters.
Basically.
Awesome. Okay, the second one. Do you have a favorite movie and why?
If I had to choose one, I think Steel Magnolias.
Okay.
I grew up in my childhood a lot in the South. And so Southern accents, I used to practice from that. I know all the lines. I cry every time I watch it, but it's got humor in it. So I guess that's my favorite.
Just like connected with it.
It's just a childhood movie that I watched with my mom. It just reminds me of my family, I guess, to some extent.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I don't know why they're not Southern, but
just something.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's actually jump into the real interview now. So tell us about you. So who are you?
Okay.
What's your story and what brings you here today?
All right, my life story, 30 seconds, I guess.
Well, we have an hour, so you can...
an hour. Well, then, from the very beginning.
I was born.
My parents, my dad was in the military, so I moved around a lot. I was born in Hawaii, and then we moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and then Virginia, and then I lived in Italy for a few years on a small island. And then I moved to Silverdale, Washington, and then Seattle. And I went to WSU, which is Washington State University, the same school that the Idaho killer.
Oh no!
I know, that's kind of unfortunately. I'm like, oh, that's the same school. Cool.
At least better timing for you. You were not there.
I was not there, thank God. So I went to school for news broadcasting initially. My next door neighbor in Hawaii did the nightly news, and so that's what I thought I always wanted to do. And when I got to school, I was like, oh, every blonde girl wants to be on the news. That sounds like a lot of work.
But what was when you first knew your neighbor? I guess she inspired you to maybe consider this. But what stood out to you?
I think probably just like mimicking the voices and stuff.
Okay.
Like I saw her on TV, and I wanted to be like, our top story tonight, and
Just came naturally to you.
yeah. So that's what I originally wanted to do. And then I changed my major to advertising, but I needed an internship my last year. And so the local radio station didn't have their intern show up. And so I called and I was like, I'll be your intern. And it was a long time ago. And they asked an inappropriate question. They said, do you have big boobs?
Oh my goodness.
Which you cannot get away with now. And I said, yes, I do.
In fact.
I do. So I did afternoons while I was
That's horrible. But you got to work with what you got.
It's also radio. There's like it's a different line. You're very inappropriate at times. So it wasn't like an HR process. But I got my internship there and I graduated and ended up getting a real job. And on a whim, I ended up sending an air check out, which is basically an audio resume.
Okay.
To a couple of different stations in Seattle. And one was brand new, and they're like, okay, we'll have you come in. So I got hired there to do weekends. I did weekends for a year.
So you randomly sent your tape to stations to see what there is, what you can find. Okay.
Yeah. I had a guy who was at my regular job who helped me put together an air check. He had kind of a background. So if I hadn't known him, I don't think I'd
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where networking comes into, Don't take it for granted. Like ask anybody around you.
Yeah.
To see
I think every business I've learned
you.
that it's all about who you know in almost every single business. And you never know who knows someone who can connect you. And So,
And surprisingly, people are willing to help, right? When you actually ask.
if you're a good person, and usually like a lot of people offer, like, and I try to give back as well. Like a lot of people helped me along the way, so I like helping others.
I love that.
But yeah, I worked there did weekends for a year, and I was about to quit because I still had my other jobs, and I was like, this is a lot.
So what else were you doing?
I was doing, I worked for a company called McGavran Guild Radio, which was basically a middleman between ad agencies and radio stations. It was a lot
within
of...
kind of your line of work.
Yeah, but it was basically a lot of like typing and filing. I was a horrible employee.
Why?
I threw away papers.
Oh, no.
I'd get overwhelmed and I was like, and I just throw them away.
Well, that's a good sign. That was probably a big sign that this was not the right job for you.
Yeah. And I was also there all by myself quite often, so it was kind of lonely. But after I did the weekends for a year, they ended up moving the afternoon girl up to mornings, and I started doing her job. So I did afternoons in Seattle for 13 years.
Wow.
Which is a great time slot because you get to sleep in. You get to like have a life in the morning and at night. It was ideal.
So how many hours were you working a day?
I worked 5 hours a day.
I'm a little jealous.
It was, and I knew I was very, very lucky, but I also just got like complacent. And I mean, when you're there for a long time and you can't really move up. So when COVID hit, it was kind of a blessing in disguise. They let go of 18 of us. And I was out of work for a year and a half, which was stressful.
How was that whole experience of, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen next?
My identity was a huge portion of my job. And so losing it and, you know, being there at one station for 13 years is almost unheard of. Like most of the time.
13 years. I thought you said 3 for a second.
No,
13 in Seattle.
Yeah, which is, I can't remember what market that is. Like market 13. It's a big market to do radio in. And usually you start off small and you work your way up. So I really lucked out. And usually you get let go a lot in radio. So the fact that I was there so long was great, but it also put me at a disadvantage where I wasn't networking and meeting other, you know, radio people.
You had gotten comfortable. You were like a pro at what you were doing.
Yeah.
You're like, I got this. I could go in. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any stress when it came to my professional life. So when I lost my job, I was like... And COVID changed things for the radio industry. Like there just weren't a lot of jobs. And the ones like you had to do a bunch of different jobs. So if you were doing mornings, you might have been also doing, you know, the promotions director, and you were doing like 8 other jobs, and it just...
So why do you think COVID affected that though?
Well, advertising.
Just the advertising budgets and all that.
Yeah, so people aren't advertising, therefore...
Got it.
Yeah, I didn't. It took me a second to put that together too.
I know,
and I was
for me,
like,
because I was like, wait, but there's still the need because people are home more. Maybe they're listening more because you know all the media stuff. Well,
people
like
are listening in the radio in your car. So drive times are the big ones, mornings and afternoons. So
people shifted more to like Netflix and stuff, which I mean the numbers showed that.
So it definitely shifted things, but I eventually got a job in Dallas. During mornings, and I was super excited because I was like, ooh, I get to talk to someone, because I did afternoons just by myself.
So how was that? Were you just applying and just looking?
I had an agent.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But I also knew someone who worked in the building, and he forwarded my air check, and so that's how I got it. I was only there a year and a half. It was the hardest year and a half of my life.
Why?
Mornings are very, very different than afternoons. So before, I was just talking in and out of songs, just bullshitting basically. I'd be like, Smooth 92.5, don't you love Taylor Swift? Like, here's another one, you know, just very simple and easy. And when you're doing a morning show by yourself, there's a lot more prep to do. You can't bullshit your way through a 5-hour shift when you're have long talk breaks.
And especially when you're alone, you don't have somebody to bounce back of or take like a breath and let them talk.
So I learned a lot, like a lot personally, like organizing, like a bunch of skills that I probably should have done a lot earlier in life, but I wasn't forced to. But it was very,
so I guess that was the blessing in disguise.
It was a huge
pushed you
blessing.
out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and they ended up eliminating my position. But about a month later, I heard about this amazing opportunity from
So
my
tell
agent.
us, what are you doing now?
Yeah, I am co-hosting the Daily Canon on Amazon's AMP app with Nick Cannon. So yeah, I was like, I'm with who? What? So I was like ecstatic and had to move cross country again, which is not cheap.
Well, it sounds like you're a pro at moving around.
At this point, yeah.
Starting from when you were a kid. But that,
Yeah.
honestly, that almost sounds like a dream as well, being able to live in so many different places. Because a lot of people dream to travel, especially when you're young. You
didn't appreciate
that.
it
Yeah,
at the
so
time.
that's my question to you. How was that? Because it can also kind of give you like a instability. You have to meet new people, make new friends. So how was that? Or how is that?
It's definitely, I think, a big portion of why I am the way I am. How I don't think I probably would be in radio if I hadn't moved around so much. Like learning the people skills and learning how to, fit in and whatnot. But I could be really popular in one school and hated in another. So I dealt with bullying, growing up, but all of it, I think it prepared me for what I'm doing now. Internet trolls. They do nothing. I'm like, bring it on. I do not care. I mean,
yes.
I had 6th grade girls bully me. I'm good. I'm all set.
So how was that? So versus, bullying, the trolls, negative comments. So you've built kind of that shield where you can deal with it and they're like, it doesn't get to me.
It doesn't.
But how did you get to that point? Or what advice would you have for young listeners or any listener that is struggling with that? Because a lot of times we really do care what people think, what people say,
I think for me, there's some saying that I always forget, but I don't let the compliments go to my head, and I also don't let the trolls get to me either. I don't care what some guy in Pascagoula, Mississippi, who lives in his mom's basement thinks about me. But also, you can't let the compliments can't get it, go to your head. I think I used to be really sensitive, and I think. For me, I'm also someone who has to have the last word. And when I was...
So I can see that could be hard not to reply.
It's hard, but I got on TikTok during the pandemic. And that's actually how a huge portion of how I got my job in Dallas. I built up a pretty big following just on my own. So I was like, look, I can build an audience. But internet trolls are very different because, you can hide behind your keyboard, and I would feel like I was going to burst sometimes if I didn't respond, and I couldn't be mean because I was looking for a job.
It's still your, image.
Yeah. So it started out kind of like, okay, how do I respond without being mean and nasty? And I used humor, and it made me feel better, and it made me like, okay, I'm going to point out how... Like,
I'm a bigger person, too, but also this is my way of kind of...
dealing with it. And it got to the point where now I go, oh, this is free content. Please don't ever stop saying mean things to me. I had some guy recently, he was like, what did he say? He's like, you look like you're aging. And I was like... Yeah,
that's what
I am. Like, we all are. I was like, did you think I was a vampire? Like, did you think I was incapable?
I love that.
But yeah,
I love that.
I look at it as free content now. So I think the biggest thing, and I've actually given this advice to my mom where she gets like this about
Don't say that
certain
about
things.
my daughter.
Exactly. But just even if you can make a joke about it, you feel better, they feel dumb quite often, and it kind of puts a mirror to their face of like, why am I being mean and nasty? Why am I taking the time out of my day?
Because I feel like a lot of times they're trying to get attention, It's literally they're trying to piss you off to get that negative attention. And if you don't give into it, they almost, like you said, feel dumb and they just stop, right? But if you keep giving that to them, they'll keep going and going and going. And because that's what they want. That's everybody likes attention, and the people that can get the positive attention, unfortunately, try the negative one, But, wow, I'm glad you know how to deal with that, because it's a tough one.
I really sometimes go weeks without any nasty comments. I go, what am I going to talk about today? And
what can I say to get these mean comments?
Mediocre 60-year-old man will come through for me and be like, you look stupid with all that makeup on. I'm like, thank you. Perfection.
I had that one for a while.
I was like, I've been waiting for you. Where have have you been? So
I love that. Honestly, humor. And I think honesty too, and just accepting our flaws. Like that's my thing too. It's like, okay, if you say I did something wrong, or I'll accept it, you know, I'll accept it, and I'll just be like, okay, it is what it is. I'm sorry, I'm not perfect.
Yeah. Well, then there's some things I'm like, I didn't realize. Someone goes, you don't have earlobes. I was like, I have earlobes. And then I go, I do have smaller earlobes. And I was like, thank you for letting me know.
Cool.
And I was like, I never knew that I had a big forehead prior to that. I was like, I got a big chin, but I have a big forehead. So I was like, oh, good to know. Good to know. I was like, you have so many things to choose from, but okay, we can go with that one.
I love it. Well, I do love your approach to it. And I think confidence and acceptance, I think, is two key things. I don't know if you would agree, to be able to not let those things get to you. And I think it gets easier as we get older, because
for sure, you care less.
Yes, you care less, because we know, you get to know who you are. You accept your flaws. You kind of try to highlight your good side. So for the younger listeners, I think my advice for them would be just hang on tight, hang on tight, work on yourself, try to not worry about what other people think. That's a lot harder said than done.
Lean into what makes you you. I mean, if I didn't embrace being kind of a weirdo, I wouldn't be where I am. And I don't want to be like every other, person.
Would you say putting your energy in something helped you get through like all those different moves and dealing with different groups of people, especially when you were younger?
Yeah.
Or how did you deal with it in the in-person bullying?
I think a little bit. I used to just sit and cry. I mean, in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade were the worst. I was, little girls made fun of me for being flat-chested.
Look at me now.
I was like, now what, bitches? I prayed. I might have prayed a little too hard. You can't tell in this shirt, but they're large and in charge. Might have back issues a little bit now. But I just sat and cried. And I think I learned, though, too, how to use humor as a deflection. But I think about that all the time of like,
how did it turn out
social
normal?
media. No, I mean, I didn't have social media when I was younger, so I can't imagine some of the stuff that kids go through. But I really do think a sense of humor and making a joke about it is the best way, or calling someone out. Like, what were you hoping to accomplish with that? Like, what was the end goal for the ones that aren't like aggressively mean, but they're the underhanded things? Like, what were you hoping to accomplish?
Would you say like people like that, they're the ones who have the insecurities? They're just trying to project to make themselves feel better by pointing out something bad about you. So maybe if we do stand up for ourselves and talk back, even just a little bit, although that may be hard at times, they might be like, well, I think
empathy is very important, and I have a lot of empathy because I think I've been on both sides. I could have very easily been a mean girl sometimes. Yeah. Like there's a part of me that really likes to verbally spar.
And some people, that's how they deal with it, right? If they're bullied, they're like, well, I guess I have to, step up. Can't beat them, join them, right? That's the same.
But I think
almost in a
you've been in that situation, you know how it feels. You don't want to make anyone else feel like that. And I think if you can understand, at least for me, a lot of times I'm like, okay, I understand why you're doing that. And it doesn't affect me because, okay, you're a very unhappy person. It's not personal because you don't know me. And you're unhappy and you're getting out some aggression because you're not happy in your life.
You're the problem, not me.
Right. Well, I could be also the problem. I mean, that takes some responsibility. I just handed to him on a platter to come at me. I'm like,
well, now you're just having fun with this.
I am.
Well, tell us a little bit about your following on TikTok and how that all came about. So
yeah, TikTok started during the pandemic, and I remember when I was still working at the radio station in Seattle, people were like, "Oh, you should get on TikTok," and I was like, "I'm not doing any dances. Like, I'm a grown-ass woman. We're not doing that." But when I started doing what I'm good at, telling stories and being weird, that's people identified with that, and it built, and I got the job in Dallas in part because of that. I got the job with Nick Cannon.
Amazing that the social media alone, it could be such a negative tool, but it can also be such a positive tool if used correctly.
It's definitely a double-edged sword. I mean, I think I have 1.2 million now, and
wow,
I thought the money was going to be like
tell us about that, because what's the reality of it. That's what I hear about TikTok. But tell me your experience and your like where you're at with the.
It's a slow build. I thought I was going to hit 1 million, and it was just going to be.
Yeah.
But no. But it all depends on what your base is about. Like telling stories, I have a little bit of an easier time getting endorsements and stuff. But if you're, lip syncing, maybe you're not going to get as many because it doesn't fit who to talk about the product. But if you do makeup, that's very easy, obviously, to get endorsements or doing beauty or decorating, an actual product.
So would you say you have to keep in mind, okay, obviously when you create content, you want it to be genuine. You want it to be what you love, you know?
Being genuine.
But do you want to, because for me, obviously, I'm an entrepreneur. I have like the whole business background. So for me, I'm always thinking, okay, so if I were to advise somebody like this, if you, let's say, want to be a content creator and you want to build the following, would you keep in mind, okay, by this, what can I sell eventually, right? By my content. Do you want to keep that in mind when you're creating like your day-to-day? Do you? I guess it's personal.
Yes and no.
to you.
I think a little bit of both. I think the number one objective is to be yourself and to be genuine because people smell bullshit. And that's a huge portion. And whatever makes you, lean into it. If you're a klutz, lean into it. The storyteller, if you're into beauty, if you're into empowering women, whatever it is you feel passionate about, do it. I mean, there's a guy who was huge for having an angry face and then lighting up. He was in, I can't remember his name, but he's in
crazy
fitness
what people
commercial.
would want to watch.
You can get in whatever makes you, lean into it is just my biggest suggestion. And when it comes to, you do have to have kind of a game plan a little bit. And it's like, throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Maybe like
an
intention, like an intention or a vision of what you would like, but not really do it for that reason. Right.
Well, I have a friend who does radio in Vegas, and all of her videos, and she does a great job at it, is reviewing places. So it's checking out this place, so-and-so. If I don't do a video of my face, I can have a cute, my cats, my dog, licking each other, the cutest video in the world. But if you don't see my face, that's what people come to know. I can have it later. But if you get yourself too much in I don't know how to say it. You've boxed yourself in, so to speak. She can't do videos like me. They don't do as well. She can, but that's not what people came to. Yes.
She just grew the review audience. Like they don't care about her. They care about what she has to say about the places.
And it kind of is the opposite thing for me.
For you.
I have to, at least if I'm going to, deviate, I have to do it within the format that I've kind of established.
Because for you, they don't care what you have to say. They just want to hear you because maybe you're funny, right? Or whatever you're talking about.
They don't care about my animals for some reason. They're like, meh.
Oh, it's so funny how that happens.
Like my dog! And I'm like, I could be in the south of France, it's beautiful, and they don't care.
But even for me, so I'm in the beauty business, so even for us, like certain things that you think, I'm like, but this is amazing knowledge, information, like why don't you guys like this? But you never know, like your audience, sometimes you can't guess because not everybody thinks the same, right? And then we'll do like a random, I don't know, not even like thought through video, and it'll do so good.
Yep.
But I guess that's
trending sounds. Like I don't really use those. I don't really do, the dances or anything. I literally just tell stories or, little quips here and there.
So when you started it, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but when you started it, were you thinking this is something that you want to grow a following on? Or what made you want to start or get on there?
I mean, I didn't even think that was a possibility, but it was very in tune of what I was already doing with the radio, and it was giving me, there wasn't a 15-second limit, when I was doing afternoons. You're in and out, and so I can tell actual stories. And that's what I like to do, and that's what I had been wanting to do in the business. And so it really showed, okay, look, I can do this by myself.
I love that.
Yeah. So COVID really was life-changing for me in a lot of good ways. It seemed very hard and difficult at the time, and it was, but I learned so much and grew and had opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise. And the amount of people, it's funny, like so much of my platform is, taking negative comments, but the majority of people are so kind and so generous. Like I have people when I was unemployed, I know my cousin's, boyfriend, they work at a radio station. I'll see people really go out of their way, and it just shows. I always say the internet is a wild and wonderful place. It's got its moments.
Honestly, the way we are, that's the type of audience and that's the type of people, for the most part, that you attract. That's been my experience. Even if it's physically in business, if it's online business, if it's like the people around you, your clients. Like I've noticed, even I've worked with way too many lash artists in my business, and even with their personalities of every lash artist, the clients that they attract pretty much suit to them. Like if the lash artist was very not
bubbly
timely,
and
exactly, they would attract that same type of client. So it's so that's kind of what I like to always keep in mind too. Like, yes, there are the negative stuff online, but if you focus on your positive platform, that's the community you build, and that's most likely the people that you're going to attract.
Well, especially I think in your line of business, I remember like that's how I found you online. It's, there's a certain aesthetic of the other people that I've gone to in the past, and I think of a certain level of professionalism and that even just all of this.
Well, like, that's how I met her.
You've got a vibe.
You guys. She had randomly became our lash client, and I was actually for like a second helping out another lash artist because she was falling behind, and I'm always just around doing the other background business stuff. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll help you out. So and then she was a client, and I always talk to everybody. I meet. I was like, hey, like,
it was literally. I came here the first week I was here because I was starting the job, and I was like, I want to look good, and I looked.
Those of you that are watching on videos, doesn't she have perfect lashes? Yegi Beauty.
Just had them done.
Yegi Project is sponsored by Yegi Beauty because Yegi Project is not making any money right now. Whoever wants to endorse, we're available.
She's totally available. We're both available for money. We both like money. But no, like I looked on, the Instagram presence and stuff these days is much more, word of mouth than anything on
really
Yelp.
Is.
But I was like, okay, this is close to me. That is, I will say, one of my favorite things about living here. Everything is so convenient.
Here.
The post office, like Target, Walmart, lashes, hair, everything. I was like, ooh, I'm used to driving like a half hour for everything.
Oh, so. No. I think that's over like 5 minutes feels too much.
It does. I don't adult well, so like make it easy. Yes.
So what do you think most people have misconceptions about for the radio or entertainment industries?
In terms of radio, I can't even tell you the amount of people who did not get. They're like, you should stop posting on TikTok. It's going to hurt your chances to get a job. I'm like, you don't understand the business at all. This is going to help me get a job. I'm not working in insurance.
Because it's your personality.
I'm not a teacher where I'm talking about, it's not like that at all. So the more that, I am myself and I'm posting on social media.
Do you feel like you might have a different personality or persona when you're on the radio versus social media versus hanging out with your friends? Or have you gotten to a point where like, oh, this is just fooling me the same everywhere?
I mean, I'm pretty much the same person. I'm going to be a little bit more on sometimes. I'm going to be...
Yes. But I totally can relate.
I'm also like, sometimes in the morning, the show, they're like, how are you so peppy? And I was like, I'm exhausted. And I am just...
I have to be peppy.
I am cracked out. And then I'm going to hit a wall around noon and I'm going to want to... So that's a misconception. I think the other one, too, is... It all depends on what market you're in for radio, at the very least, in terms of money. I did pretty well in Seattle until COVID
you were there
hit.
13 years, so you climbed up.
I did well, especially working for 5 hours a day. So people think you make minimum wage. If I made minimum wage, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be worth it to me.
And living in Seattle is costly, right?
Yeah, not as costly as here, where I had to buy my own fridge.
Well,
my
tell us a
rental.
little bit about that experience. So you had to fully relocate. You took on a new job, exciting job. So tell us about the job and how like that whole thing came about.
It is so much fun. It has been what I've wanted to do forever. So the Daily Canon, it's 6 to 9 a.m. every morning, and we go to the studio, and it is so cool. Usually the radio stations that I've worked at our rooms, like, they're not decorated as nicely as this, but like,
is this small?
It's no, they're bigger, but like concrete, just nothing.
Nothing fun.
And I mean, I walked into the studio for the first time for the Daily Canon, and I couldn't even tell you how many TV screens are in there.
Oh, wow.
For just with the logo on them. And there's all this fun stuff, like, he's got, what do you call it? Go-karts.
Oh,
He's
wow.
got an entire game room of, there's a pool table. There's all sorts of, what do you call it? I speak for a living. I break on words all the time.
Like
like an arcade.
Yeah,
like
arcade.
There's tons of that. There's an entire, like, the break room is a candy wall. You know where you at the mall,
do you
fill
use
up?
it? Do you use
Yes.
all that? Oh, you do.
And
Okay.
I'm angry about it. Because at the end of the day, we're like, okay, I might want a Snickers later. I'll just put that in my purse. And it's all free. And I'm like, there's a cereal wall.
Wow.
There's with like dispensers.
Are you guys hiring? I'm just kidding. I love
Dude, I was like, this is amazing. And you're literally having fun. And I'm so lucky because the biggest portion of doing a morning show is, the chemistry with people. And from day one, we all just have so much fun. And everyone behind the scenes is wonderful too. Like, Nick just hires like really wonderful people. And so I've only worked there,
Oh,
I think it's our third week.
wow.
And it just feels like I've known them so much longer.
Wow.
And we can all give each other shit and poke each other. And we know.
Did you
know what I
guys
mean?
all do like group interviews before recruiting somebody in? Or they're like, oh, we're going to
No.
assume everybody's going to get along?
I didn't. Well, so there's three women on the show. So Nick is the main one, and then it's me, and then Courtney, who is on Wild and Out, and then one of Nick's baby mamas, who, like, I was like, oh my God, what's that going to be like? And she's so wonderful and so sweet, and they're so open, and it's like, but it's also crazy. I'm like, my boss and my coworker makes millions of dollars and like offered to buy my other coworker a car. It's like this world that I'm like,
Am I part of this now?
it's bizarre.
I love it.
That was always my concern moving to LA of like, I don't want to get, that
The culture
attitude
shock
that
or-
you think a lot of it comes. And I've definitely met some people who are like, do you know who I am? And I'm like, no, I don't.
Who are you?
But everyone for the most part, like, has been wonderful that I've
love
met.
that for you.
Mean,
I love
you
that
were
for
wonderful.
you.
Like, people were warm and friendly, and I'm really, really enjoying myself. And I wasn't expecting to be honest. I wasn't.
I know. I guess that's a misconception about LA people.
Yes.
Who are actually nice, most of us.
Yeah, I think it's all about who you pick to surround yourself
Yes,
with, though, too.
and like what we talk to, you kind of attract who you are as well.
Yeah, and so I'm not going to hang out with people who...
Yeah. For
full of
example,
shit.
if I met you briefly and when I asked you, hey, how's your day going? If you were like,
fine.
yeah, I'm having a shitty day, I
Right.
was not going to connect with you.
Right.
And I was not going to invite you on the show, right? So I really do think we attract like
For
who we
sure.
are too. So
For
if
sure.
the people surrounding us suck, take a look at yourself.
Right. Exactly.
And maybe readjust some of your
for sure, for
personality.
sure.
Okay, well, awesome. So we talked about a lot of the pros of your job. What are some cons?
Oh, the biggest con. I've got one.
That job is very desirable, so I could see like a lot of competition for that. But what are some
It
cons?
is the number one con is how early.
Oh.
And this is actually the Daily Canon. I don't have to be there as early because we have a team around us. But when I was in Dallas, I did everything myself. So that meant that I was at work at 4 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
That meant that some
It's
days
dark
I didn't get
outside.
home until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Like, I had no energy to do anything else, and that was
and
my
it is
my big
very
goal.
draining, right?
It's
talking,
draining being
entertaining,
on,
yeah.
and even if you're having fun, it
takes energy.
is, and it's a
energy.
little bit is even though I only work 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 3 hours. It's almost weird too because you get out and it's like, all right, what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, oh, I could be productive and go work out, but that sounds like a lot of work. So it's the hours are very, very hard, and I remember people in the building before, and I was like, oh, I'm still getting used to this, and they were like, oh, I've done mornings for 20 years. You never get used to it. I go, cool.
Good to know.
Lie to me.
At least
Like,
you love it. At least you love it. You can get over the little hurdle of
that is a small piece.
early morning.
And when you're with people and the energy, I don't think if I was still doing it by myself, I think I would have eventually been like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, it's very
but this
draining.
is genuinely so much fun, and I feel like if we're having fun, the audience is having fun.
Of course. Yeah,
so.
it's the energy. I'm
Yeah,
just going to keep saying that on this
energy,
episode.
darling. It's the energy. Yeah.
Just goes
Yeah.
on. So this podcast is all about growth, success, you know, everything that has to do with personal, business, all sorts of things, any area we want to grow in.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you. So now you do kind of have a dream job, or your one of your dream jobs. Are there any other ambitions you have, or goals and dreams that you want to aim for after this?
Oh, yeah.
Or you're like, I'm good.
No, I mean, I would like to do more hosting stuff on my own, doing voiceovers. I love that, so I'd like to get an agent to do that kind of thing.
Now, a random question, because I was always curious. Do you have to sign crazy contracts that doesn't allow you to do independent work when you're working with such a big company?
It depends. When I was working in Dallas, I had to get that in my contract. Here's what I'm already doing. And I had to ask permission to do a lot of things. They said yes.
Oh, good. So I guess as long as there's no conflict.
This one, I'm an independent contractor, so
You're
I can do whatever you would like to hire me for.
Well, those of you listening out there, she's free after what, like 10? 10 a.m.?
Basically. Yeah. So, I mean, that is nice that I've got, you know, a lot of hours to do more things. I knew someone in Seattle who now works at Apple TV, and he's like, oh, I'd love for you to like moderate some events for us. And I was like, with celebrity? Yes. Yes, I would love to do that. So anything where I get to like be myself and be a smart ass, like I get paid to be a smart ass. Like,
It's fun, yeah.
And I love being a smart ass. It is my favorite thing. I don't even think I could not be sarcastic if I tried. Like,
it's just
not my
you.
DNA.
That's
so,
you.
yeah, I'd like to do some more, you know, that's what this job is going to open a lot of doors. It already has in terms of meeting people and being here in LA.
And seeing other
There's just so many more
opportunities.
opportunities as opposed to, you know, Seattle or Dallas or Pascagoula, Mississippi. Like, you know, you're here where the action is. So, and it's
And
all
you
about
meet the right
connections,
people.
and that's something that I've realized too. Like, there is a certain level of talent when it comes to entertainment, but a lot of it is just who you know.
So I guess since we did talk about that quite a bit, and I know a lot of our listeners might want to get into radio or entertainment or acting, and any of those industries that is kind of hard to make or hard to get your foot in the door. So what advice do you have for them as far as networking, since we did say
Networking is important. Yeah.
No, what was the phrase? It's who you know.
Who
It's
you know, for sure.
God.
Yeah. No, it is. It's so much about who you know, but I think getting your foot in the door in any capacity is...
How do you meet the first person? I guess that's the right question.
Start at the ground floor.
And for
level.
you interned, right? You did a bunch of cold, what is it, the radio tapes, and you submitted in, and you said...
Being tenacious, being aggressive, assertive, and following up. Like, there were so many people that I've worked with that, especially in radio, that it's... A lot of times you have to do a lot of work before you get hired, and some people you just can't do that. Like, I was about to quit, like I was burnt out, I was, you know, wasn't getting paid, I was married at the time, so thankfully, like, I had a second income to kind of help out. But sometimes you're not in a position to work for free and to do those things. But a lot of it is just like, what can I do? Following up with people, and a lot of people want to help, and they like being, you know, experts in the field.
Yeah, and they like giving advice. You'd be surprised how much people want to talk about
you'd
themselves.
Be surprised. Who likes to talk about themselves? What? But no, it's people.
That's
like
why this is
helping
called the
people.
Yegi Project.
There we go. I love it. Yes, your ring is beautiful, and you have tiny little hands.
Thank you.
My man hands just
Well,
encompassed.
that's one thing I always, it's in my head. I'm like, I hate that somebody pointed out, like my very bony, crooked fingers.
No, they're
have
feminine
never-
as opposed to my man hands where I crush you.
So that's why I have long nails. So I contour.
I think you have pretty hands.
I contour my bony, crooked fingers. But the first time I really noticed how bad they were is because
I don't think
of
they're bad at all.
Well, listen, I'll take it. Thank you.
Okay.
But so one of the so I would do YouTube videos for lash content, and I talk with my hands. I'm Armenian. It's kind of a cultural thing. And somebody said, "Why do you keep doing with your crooked hands? It's so distracting." Or like your dinosaur. I don't know what they said, but until today, it's kind of it's fine. I accept it.
I think it's
but
better though
fine.
to be expressive and I'm always shocked when people don't like. How do you not have facial expression or move your hands when you're talking? So I think that's why you're going to be more successful. Lean into being you.
Thanks.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How did you get into, this and building, like you've got I think it's hard to build up a following as a business and, a pioneer or an expert in the field. How did you, get into that?
Well, it all started in 2015. So my story goes very sweet and short. Yes, like back in, I think 2014, I worked at a university. I was a student counselor for like 6 years, very young. So I'm an immigrant here. I wasn't even born here. So I have like that, I need to make it American dream. So that comes with my background. But I worked really hard, went to school, did it all right, bachelor's, master's, did business, accounting. So I climbed up the ladder, got the job, 6 years in the same company. So I was like, okay, now I had just finished my master's degree. And I was like, okay, I qualify for this managerial position. I'm like, I'm going to get it. And they love me at this company. I'm good at what I do. So then I applied for the job. And honestly, I wasn't even officially interviewed, which is illegal, but I just let it all go. And it was almost like ageism. So the dean that I talked to, because how old was I? Like 19, 20. I was crazy. So I've done crazy things with how many units I took and all that crazy stuff. But I kind of get it, like the average person my age back then, like now if I look back, like, oh, you're kind of
good
a
for
kid,
you
know?
though.
But I genuinely felt like I was ready for this position. They knew me. I qualified with my work experience, with my education, like all that stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm ready. Give me a chance. I want to manage, but I was going to manage professors, graduate, undergraduate. So like I could kind of see the dynamic maybe not working, but I was so confident.
Right.
So it really pissed me off. They didn't really give me a chance. So I was like, you know what? F you guys. I'm going to start my own business.
You get a chip on your shoulder. I think that's always good motivation.
I'm going to be in my own, you guys don't want to give me a managerial position, then who is? Because no one else knows me. I've worked here forever and that's my main career. So who else is going to give me a chance? Okay, I'm going to give myself a chance. So that's kind of when I was like,
I love that.
And I had my cosmetology license at that point.
Well, of course you did, because you had so many other things. Why not one more?
Yeah, I had just done that for fun, and never saw it as a career. I was very academic, love math and science. Like, beauty was a joke to me.
Oh, math and science?
I love it, okay? So,
I can't even do basic math, so I go,
Yeah, I even got like a 5 on my AP calculus test. I'm very proud of that.
We're having so much less in common now.
So anyways, I loved all that. So I knew I was always going to be maybe some like engineer, right? But things shift. Wow, this is not a short and sweet story. It's getting too detailed. But anyways, that's how the company
I think it's fascinating.
started. But this is about you, this episode, right? So I'm not going to go on about myself. But thanks for asking, because mostly it's never about me.
I think it's cool for people to know too of how you get there, and I think it's something that I think it's inspirational for women to know that and you can do it.
Thank you. And it was really a leap of faith. So at that point, I was like, I had saved good. I had my 401k. I had a little bit of savings, but I didn't really have debt. I was still living with my parents. My credit was good. My income was good. So I was like, okay, this is my chance. So I applied for a business loan. I did like the whole thing. And of course, I went to business school. So I knew things in theory, way different in practice. Like, it was a slap on the face right when I opened the business, way harder than I thought. But yeah, that's how it all started.
See, I think that's really cool. I even think just like, I do this for a living, but I can't seem to get off my butt to get all the equipment to do a podcast and stuff on my own.
You can borrow my space. I only use this every Wednesday. No excuses. You can come any other day.
Like, hey guys.
Could get comfortable in my little space.
No, I might have to hit you up on like,
and when you start making money with it, I'll charge you rent for it.
I think that's smart. I think that's smart. You got to make money.
But anyways, so
Yeah.
that's my story. And then fast 2015, actually recently it's our 8-year anniversary with the company.
Very
it's still
cool.
going. Started with a salon, turned into very niche eyelashes after. First it was full service, but then I saw the opportunity in the eyelashes.
That's what I think is cool. Of seeing
Specialized.
those holes and filling them.
Yeah.
I think that so much of that can apply to so many people of, you know, what you're good at and where's their hole in
There's
the market.
always room. You know, the beauty has always been saturated. Always been saturated. There's always something new. There's always opportunities. We just have to look for it and take a leap of faith.
Yeah.
So
Very
so
cool.
that's my story. But then I feel like I graduated that entrepreneurship thing, and I've always had a passion to help motivate people.
No, for sure.
Like any free time I have, I'm just researching and learning about growth, success, what it takes, like all these things,
I
right?
think that's how you have to enjoy doing that. And I think whatever you do too, like it's important to love what you do. And
yeah,
if
and
you're
meet
passionate
amazing
about it, you're going to be
and meet
right?
amazing people. So
incredibly charming people and humble.
I don't know about the humble. You know, I am all
I'm
for
the most humble person ever.
I'm all for people celebrating their greatness.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no, for
humbleness
sure.
is overrated. Like, don't be humble. Like,
You
accept
gotta
your
toot,
greatness.
toot and beep beep your own horn. Little humble brag. I
Yeah,
love it.
so that's what I do with my husband. I'm like, babe, don't I look cute today?
Don't I?
Seriously.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's that. But going back to you.
Yes, back to me.
Overall, I guess just your advice for our listeners. If somebody was just starting out, what would you tell them? What are some words of encouragement on your end?
I think just whatever you really enjoy doing, and it might not even seem like something that you can make into a career or, you know, something that you could talk about on TikTok or things. You know, we're living in a time where you can make a shit ton of money on TikTok, or, you know, Jennifer Aniston has a problem with it because it's taken away, you know, but really there's so many more
Can you give
opportunities.
us some figures if you know it, roughly?
Of what?
Like how much people can make on
mean,
TikTok, roughly.
I have been told what I could make, and I'm not quite there yet, but I know people who, you know, make $10,000 for one video, or $20,000 or $30,000. I mean, I'm nowhere near that, but I have definitely, you know, I was offered free product initially, you know, for baby clothes. I'm like, I don't have a baby, so it's really not going to work for me.
No, thank you.
But like it started out like, okay, we'll give you 300, and you start gradually moving up, and you start. I think it's important to talk to other people of how much,
They're getting.
based on their followers and whatnot. And there's tools too that you can look and go, okay, here's what I should be making.
Oh, that's
Sometimes
great.
I try to, you know, drive a hard bargain and I still don't get it, but
It's worth a try. You never know.
yeah.
You know, it's
And at
worth
the
a
end of the
try.
day, you're making a video and you're getting paid money.
It's a good deal. It's a good deal.
I mean, I'm not a manual labor person, so
Give me a mic and a camera.
yeah, but whatever it is that makes you just lean into it and find. See, I don't have that entrepreneurial spirit to some extent, so I get inspired by people like you that I'm like, okay, so much of it is just sitting down and focusing on what you want, and I think that's I think you're a good example for that.
So maybe that's your challenge after this.
Yeah.
You're going to sit down and create your own vision board or vision letter.
It's on my
What
to-do
you want
list, just
next.
haven't done it.
You know, but first you need to move in, right? You just got all your stuff
That's
from
the plan. That's the plan. Get situated, and then I hustle, and I think maybe that's the aspect that I enjoy. I don't like creating the business aspect by myself, but I like hustling.
It's not for everybody. Honestly, looking back to initially the podcast started as it's for entrepreneurs. Because I feel like my message was, okay, I'm going to push everybody to be an entrepreneur because that's how they can live their dream life. But I don't think that's exactly. It's not for everyone. I've learned that. And I think just finding the right job or right career and living with the right mentality, the right everything.
And
so
that's,
you're
I think
successful.
the advice can be applied to different aspects.
So that's why it shifted. Now it's just mainly for success, for personal growth, to be able to live your best life, right?
Yeah.
But yes, so that's what we're all about. But
Yay.
I think that pretty much concludes our interview.
I
Is there
had so much
anything else you want
fun.
to share?
No, I don't think so.
No? Where can people find you?
Yes.
Obviously.
All of my my handles are at Mason, MASON, on the mic, ON THEMIC. I was like,
We'll link that all on the screen.
and then you can listen to me Monday through Friday on the Daily Canon with Nick Cannon on the AMP app.
That's so official. I feel like I
know.
just met a celebrity.
Not yet, but one of these days.
Yes,
You'll be
yes.
like, I know her. She has a foul mouth.
I interviewed her first. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you
I had
so much
fun.
again.
Yeah.
See you in like a couple of weeks
Yes,
for your
ma'am.
lashes.
Yes, ma'am. Again, they look so good.
Thank you for our listeners. I hope you guys got some great advice from an expert in the radio industry. Until next time, bye. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.